So, I guess I should start with some background. I'm 27 and I've been working at Target for about 5 years now. Not like that was my plan or anything. I actually have a business degree that I busted my ass for, but when I graduated, the job market was absolute garbage. And after like 300 applications and getting ghosted by pretty much everyone, Target was the only place that called me back. It was supposed to be temporary, but I actually worked my way up to department manager, and the pay isn't total trash anymore. I can afford my own apartment. It's small, but it's mine, and I pay my bills on time. I even have a little savings now. But my family, they act like I'm selling drugs on the street corner or something. My stepdad, he married my mom when I was 8, works at this investment firm and is obsessed with status. My sister Leah is engaged to some guy whose parents have money. My younger brother is dating the daughter of some local business owner. My mom doesn't even work, but spends all her time at their country club pretending to be important. And then there's me, the family disappointment because I wear a red shirt to work. Over the past couple years, they've been inviting me to fewer and fewer family things. Last time I went to a family dinner, like 6 months ago, my stepdad introduced me as Margaret's son who's still figuring things out instead of using my actual name. My sister rolled her eyes every time I talked about my job. My brother kept making jokes about me folding shirts for a living. I kept showing up anyway because, like, they're family, right? So, 2 days before Christmas, I got a call from my sister. I actually got excited because we hadn't talked in months. I thought maybe she was calling to invite me for Christmas dinner. The call started normal enough, but then she just said, "Randy, don't even think about showing your face here for Christmas. You're not welcome." I was completely blindsided and asked her why not. She laughed at me, like actually laughed, and said, "You're 27, still folding shirts at Target like a teenage dropout. My fiancé's parents are investment bankers. What am I supposed to say? My brother is a minimum wage loser who can't even afford a real apartment." Before I could even respond, I heard some shuffling sounds and then my mom grabbed the phone. "We told everyone you died in a car accident 3 years ago. It was better than admitting we raised a failure." I swear I heard my stepdad laughing in the background. 3 years. They've been telling people I'm dead for 3 fucking years. Then my brother grabbed the phone and called me a genetic mistake and said his girlfriend thinks their family has standards. He said me showing up in my Goodwill clothes and bus pass would expose that we're related to trash. Then he said something that hit me like a punch to the gut. "We burned everything you left behind. Your trophies, photos. Mom used your diplomas as kindling. Said it was therapeutic." I couldn't even speak. I still had some personal stuff at their house that I never got around to picking up when I moved out, including my college diploma and some childhood stuff that actually meant something to me. My stepdad got on the phone next. "Here's $200. It's bribe money to keep you away. Buy yourself some ramen and games. Whatever losers do on Christmas." They all thought this was hilarious. I could hear them all laughing. Before hanging up, my mom said, "You know what? Your real father would be disgusted. Thank God he died before seeing what a loser you became." That was it. Something in me just snapped. My biological dad died from cancer when I was 7. He was the only one who ever believed in me. Using him against me was crossing a line I couldn't forgive. I sat in my apartment all night just staring at the wall. Couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, just kept hearing their voices, their laughter over and over in my head. I called in sick to work the next day and spent Christmas alone, just completely numb. That night, I made a decision. My mom has a brother, my uncle Salvador, who they cut off years ago over some family drama. I found him on Facebook a while back, but never messaged him because I knew it would cause problems with my mom. But now, what did I have to lose? I sent him a message explaining who I was and asked if we could meet up. He responded like an hour later, way faster than I expected, and we arranged to meet at this coffee shop the next day. Uncle Salvador was nothing like how my mom described him. She always called him a crazy loser, but he showed up driving a nice Ford F-150, wearing normal clothes, and seemed totally put together. He owns a construction company and seemed like one of the most normal people I've ever met. We talked for hours. I told him everything, including the Christmas call. He wasn't surprised, but he was pissed on my behalf. Then he told me something that changed everything. Randy, your dad didn't leave you nothing. He left you everything. Apparently, my biological father had built up a pretty serious investment portfolio before he died. He'd set up a trust for me that I was supposed to get when I turned 25. Salvador had been one of the trustees, but after he and my mom had their falling out, he was pushed out. He always assumed they'd given me the money when I came of age. Your mom and stepdad have been managing that money, Salvador explained. Or should I say using it? That house they live in, the cars, your sister's fancy college, all funded by your inheritance. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Salvador reached across the table and grabbed my shoulder and told me that what they'd done wasn't just cruel. It was illegal. That money was legally mine, and they'd been stealing it for years. The next few days were a blur. Salvador still had copies of some of the original trust documents. We hired this financial investigator guy to dig deeper. The evidence was insane. My successful stepdad's investment banking connections came through my father's business contacts. Their lavish lifestyle funded by my trust. My sister's wedding that I wasn't invited to being paid for with my money. I talked to a lawyer who specializes in trust fraud. She thinks we have a solid case to not only get control of my assets, but maybe even sue them for all the years they've been stealing from me. I'm still processing all this. I'm still going to work at Target every day like nothing's changed. But inside, I'm different now. I know the truth and I have a plan. They think I'm a loser. They think I'm nothing. They're about to find out how wrong they are. Update 1. Okay, so first of all, holy shit you guys. I didn't expect my last post to blow up like that. I read every comment and I appreciate all the support and advice. A lot has happened in the last 2 weeks and I wanted to update you all. After meeting with Uncle Salvador and finding out about my dad's trust fund, I kind of felt like I was in some weird alternate reality. Like, was this actually happening? I kept going to work at Target like normal because I didn't want to do anything stupid before we had all the facts. I mean, yeah, I was pissed, but I wasn't about to go confront my family without solid proof. Salvador introduced me to this financial investigator named Derek, who specializes in trust fraud. We met at this little cafe and I was honestly expecting some slick guy in a suit, but Derek showed up in jeans and a faded t-shirt with a Star Wars reference on it. He spent like 3 hours going through all the documents Salvador had kept, asking me questions about my family's lifestyle and taking notes on his tablet. Derek was actually skeptical at first. He kept asking if I was sure my mom and stepdad never mentioned any inheritance to me. Like maybe they were just managing it until I was ready or something. But I was like, dude, they told people I was dead rather than admit I work at Target. They're not exactly looking out for my best interest here. The next week was weird as hell. I'd go to work, stock shelves, help customers find stuff, go to manager meetings, all completely normal. Then I'd meet with Derek or the lawyer, her name's Vanessa, after work or on my lunch breaks. It felt like I was living 2 completely different lives. The stuff we found out was insane. First of all, my dad's portfolio was worth way more than I ever imagined, like 7 figures more. He had investments in tech companies back in the early days that absolutely exploded in value. The trust was specifically set up so that my mom would get a reasonable monthly allowance to take care of me. But the bulk of it was supposed to be preserved until I turned 25. Instead, guess what happened? As soon as my stepdad entered the picture, the trust started getting drained. Their house paid for with my money. My sister's fancy private college, my money. My brother's car, my money. My stepdad's failed business ventures that he keeps bouncing back from, all cushioned by my money. There was this one document that made me so angry I had to walk out of the room. It was from when I was 19 and struggling to pay for my own college. I had applied for financial aid and my mom told me we didn't qualify because my stepdad made too much. Turns out they actively blocked me from accessing my own trust fund that was literally set up to pay for my education. I had to take out student loans while they were using my money to renovate their kitchen. The worst part was finding out how my stepdad got his job at the investment firm in the first place. He didn't earn it. He got it through my dad's connections. Apparently, my real dad was well respected in that industry, and his former colleague gave my stepdad a chance because of their relationship. My stepdad has basically been living off my dad's reputation and money this entire time. I asked Derek why no one ever contacted me about the trust when I turned 25. He found out that my mom and stepdad had actually filed paperwork claiming I was mentally incompetent to manage my own finances. They forged documentation saying I had some kind of developmental issues and couldn't handle money responsibly. That's why they were allowed to keep control of everything past the age when I should have gotten it. Like, who does that? Salvador was getting more and more pissed with each new discovery. Apparently, my mom didn't just cut him out of the family for no reason. She pushed him out because he was the only trustee who would have actually followed my dad's wishes. The falling out they had was because he questioned some withdrawals they were making from the trust. One night, after a particularly rough meeting where we found out they had used trust money to pay for my sister's upcoming wedding that I wasn't even invited to, I went home and just sat on my balcony staring at nothing. My neighbor Carlos came out for a smoke and asked if I was okay. I ended up telling him the whole story and he just shook his head and said that some people will do anything for money, even sell out their own kids. Then he offered me a beer and we just sat there in silence for a while. It was weirdly comforting. Vanessa, the lawyer, told me we had enough evidence to take legal action. She laid out all our options, from the nuclear approach, criminal charges for fraud, to simply freezing the accounts and demanding a full accounting. I decided to start with freezing everything and sending formal legal notices. Vanessa warned me this would cause immediate chaos in my family's life since they'd suddenly lose access to the money they've been using for everything. I said, do it. 3 days later, the notices went out. All accounts associated with the trust were frozen. My mom, stepdad, sister, and brother all received formal legal letters explaining that there was an investigation into the mismanagement of the trust and that I was asserting my rights as the beneficiary. My phone blew up within hours. Texts, calls, voicemails, all of them panicking. I didn't answer any of them. I just watched the notifications pile up. My mom, Randy, please call us. There's been a terrible misunderstanding. My stepdad, this is a serious matter we need to discuss as a family. My sister, WTF did you do? My venue just called saying our payment was rejected. My brother, you better fix this right now, you selfish piece of shit. I didn't respond to any of it. Vanessa advised me not to have any direct contact with them until we had our first official meeting with their lawyers. But part of me also just wanted them to stew in it for a while, to feel even a fraction of the helplessness I felt when they told me I was dead to them. Then yesterday evening, my doorbell camera app sent me an alert that there was movement at my door. I opened it to see a live feed of my entire family standing outside my apartment building. My stepdad was pounding on the wall next to my door so hard I thought he might break his hand. My mom was literally crying and saying my name over and over. My sister was trying to kick my door in while screaming about her ruined wedding. My brother was on his phone frantically texting someone, probably his girlfriend, to explain why they suddenly couldn't go out to their fancy dinner. I just sat on my couch watching it all on my phone screen, not making a sound. They had no idea I was inside, just a few feet away from them, watching their complete meltdown. Eventually, one of my neighbors threatened to call the cops, and they left, still arguing with each other all the way to their car. Tomorrow is our first meeting with the lawyers. Salvador is coming with me for support. I've taken the day off work. It's going to be the first time I've seen my family face to face since finding out what they did. And honestly, I can't wait to see the looks on their faces when they realize the minimum wage loser they've been laughing at is about to take back everything they stole. Update 2. Hey everyone. Sorry for taking a few days to update. The meeting with my family happened and wow, just wow. I'm still processing everything. So, after they showed up at my apartment and had that meltdown that my doorbell camera caught, I was kind of nervous about facing them. I barely slept the night before the meeting. Just kept imagining different scenarios in my head. Mostly them somehow turning this around on me and making me feel guilty. That's been their specialty my whole life. The meeting was scheduled for 10 a.m. at Vanessa's law office downtown. I took an Uber there with Salvador because I was too anxious to drive. When we got there, Vanessa met us in the lobby and took us to a conference room to go over some last-minute details. She told me to let her do most of the talking, but that I could speak up if I needed to correct anything. We were the first ones there, so we sat on one side of this big table waiting. My leg wouldn't stop bouncing up and down. Salvador kept putting his hand on my shoulder and telling me I had nothing to be nervous about, that I was doing the right thing. At exactly 10:03, I kept checking the time on my phone. The receptionist brought in my family and their lawyer. The moment they walked in, my mom tried rushing over to hug me, calling me sweetheart and acting like we were just at some normal family gathering. I literally put my hand up and stepped back. The look on her face when I rejected her hug was something I'll never forget, like she genuinely couldn't understand why I wouldn't want her to touch me. My stepdad tried to immediately take control of the situation, telling everyone where to sit and acting like he was running the meeting. The lawyer they brought seemed uncomfortable, like he wasn't fully prepared for what was happening. My sister walked in with her fiancé, which I wasn't expecting, and my brother came with his girlfriend, also unexpected. They were both trying to look angry, but I could tell they were actually scared. My sister's eyes were all puffy, like she'd been crying all night. Her fiancé looked confused, like he didn't really know why he was there. Once everyone sat down, my stepdad immediately started talking about how this was all a big misunderstanding and how they'd been managing my finances for my own good because I was still finding my way in life. He actually tried to make it sound like they were doing me a favor. Vanessa didn't even let him finish. She put a stack of documents on the table and said, "We weren't here to discuss their intentions. We were here to address the illegal misappropriation of trust funds that were legally mine since I turned 25. My mom started crying, which was her go-to move whenever she was confronted with anything. My sister's fiancé was looking between her and me with this dawning realization on his face. He kept whispering questions to her that she was ignoring. Vanessa went through the evidence methodically. The forged documents claiming I was mentally incompetent, the redirected funds, the excessive withdrawals, the blocked access to my trust when I needed money for college. With each new piece of evidence, my stepdad's face got redder and redder. My brother tried to interrupt at one point, saying that I was being dramatic and that everyone helps their kids financially, and this was no different. Vanessa just stared at him and asked if he considered using someone else's money to buy himself a car helping his kids. He shut up after that. The breaking point came when Vanessa showed everyone the financial records for my sister's wedding. The look on her fiancé's face when he realized their fancy wedding was being paid for with money that was legally mine. He actually got up and left the room for a few minutes. When he came back, he sat farther away from my sister than before. My stepdad finally lost it and slammed his fist on the table, yelling that I was ungrateful after everything they'd done for me. His lawyer tried to calm him down, but he wasn't having it. He started listing all the advantages they'd given me growing up. The house, the vacations, the opportunities. That's when I finally spoke up. I told him none of that was from him. It was all from my dad. The only thing they ever gave me of their own was constant criticism and shame about my job. My mom tried a different approach, crying harder and saying they never meant to hurt me. That they were just trying to protect the family's reputation. When that didn't work, she switched to saying my dad would be disappointed in me for tearing the family apart over money. That's when Salvador spoke up for the first time. He looked my mom dead in the eyes and said her late husband would be disgusted by what she'd done to his son and his legacy. My mom completely broke down after that. The most surprising moment came when my sister's fiancé asked to see the trust documents himself. He works in finance, which I didn't know. And after looking through them for a few minutes, he turned to my sister and asked if she knew about this all along. The look on her face said everything. He handed the papers back, got up, and walked out without another word. My sister ran after him. My brother's girlfriend was just sitting there looking horrified. When my brother tried to put his arm around her, she shrugged it off. I could tell she was seeing a side of him and my family she'd never seen before. Their lawyer finally admitted they didn't have much of a defense against the evidence and suggested we discuss settlement terms. My stepdad looked like he wanted to punch the guy. Vanessa laid out my terms. Full control of all remaining trust assets returned to me immediately. A complete accounting of all money taken from the trust. A repayment plan for funds that were misappropriated. Return of any personal items of mine they still had, if they hadn't actually burned everything. No contact with me unless I initiate it. My stepdad started arguing about the repayment, saying they didn't have the money to pay it back. Vanessa pointed out that they could sell the house that was bought with my money or the cars or any of the other assets they'd acquired using the trust. That's when my mom finally admitted the truth. They didn't just use my money for big purchases. They'd been living completely beyond their means for years. My stepdad's job wasn't nearly as successful as they pretended. They had almost nothing that wasn't bought with my trust money. Without access to it, they were basically broke. The meeting ended with their lawyer saying they needed time to consider the terms. As we were getting up to leave, my brother tried to block my way, getting in my face and telling me I was destroying the family. Salvador stepped between us, and my brother backed down immediately. Turns out he's only brave when he thinks the other person won't fight back. In the lobby, my mom made one last desperate attempt, grabbing my arm and begging me not to do this to them. I just looked at her and asked why they told people I was dead. She didn't have an answer. When I got home, I had a message from my sister's fiancé asking if we could talk. I'm meeting him tomorrow for coffee. My brother's girlfriend also sent me a Facebook message with a lot of questions. I haven't decided if I'm going to respond yet. The weirdest part is how I feel now. I thought I'd be happy seeing them finally face consequences, but mostly I just feel empty, like I won. But what did I really win? A family that only valued me for my money and treated me like garbage when they thought I had none. Salvador says that's normal and the anger will fade with time. He's been amazing through all this. Turns out family doesn't have to be toxic. Their lawyer called Vanessa this morning. They want to meet again to discuss alternatives. Vanessa thinks they're going to try to negotiate a smaller repayment or maybe some kind of allowance for themselves. I told her my terms aren't changing. I still haven't decided what I'm going to do with the money once I get control of it. Part of me wants to just leave it alone and keep working at Target just to prove that I don't need their approval or their lifestyle. But another part of me thinks my dad would want me to use it to build something for myself. Either way, I know one thing for sure. I'm never going to use money to make someone else feel small. I'd rather be the guy who folds shirts at Target than be anything like them. Final update. So, a lot has happened since my last update. I didn't expect things to move so fast, but once the dam broke, it was like a flood. First, I had that coffee meeting with my sister's fiancé, Kevin. I was kind of nervous about it. Figured he might try to convince me to be reasonable or something, but it was nothing like that. We met at this little coffee shop near my apartment, and it was super awkward at first. We both just sat there stirring our coffees for a solid minute without saying anything. Then, he just flat out asked me if I knew my sister had lied to him about her family's money situation. He said she'd told him her family was successful in investment banking, and that's why they could afford their lifestyle and help pay for the wedding. He works in finance, not investment banking, just regular financial planning for normal people, and said the documents from our meeting made it pretty obvious what had been going on. I told him I honestly had no idea until recently and explained how they had treated me over the years. He seemed genuinely shocked. Apparently, my sister had told him I was just difficult and jealous of their success, which is why I didn't come around much. She never mentioned the whole "we told everyone you're dead" thing. He said he needed time to think about their relationship. The wedding was supposed to be in 4 months, but he'd already called the venue to cancel their deposit. Guess the venue was one of the payments that bounced when I froze the accounts. The day after meeting Kevin, I got a text from my brother's girlfriend asking if we could talk. We met for lunch and holy shit, my brother had been telling her a completely different story, too. He told her I was a drug addict who stole from the family and that's why they kept me at a distance. When she saw how normal I was at the meeting and then heard about the financial stuff, she started questioning everything he'd told her. I honestly felt bad for both of them. They got caught up in my family's web of lies without knowing what they were getting into. Meanwhile, Vanessa called to tell me my family wanted another meeting to negotiate. I was like, negotiate what? The money is legally mine, but I agreed to hear them out. This second meeting was even more tense than the first. My stepdad came in with this whole proposal about how they should be allowed to keep living in the house. My house, apparently, since it was bought with trust money, and receive a reasonable allowance while they get back on their feet. He had the nerve to say they deserved it for raising me. Vanessa shut that down immediately. She pointed out that not only had they misappropriated funds, they had actively blocked me from using my trust for my education, forcing me to take out student loans while they lived it up on my money. My mom started crying again, saying they'd made mistakes, but they were still family. I just stared at her and asked again why they told people I was dead. She still couldn't answer that. The meeting ended with my stepdad storming out after Vanessa made it clear their options were to either agree to my terms or face criminal charges for fraud. My mom stayed behind, begging me to reconsider, saying they had nowhere to go. I reminded her they had a house they could sell to pay back some of what they owed me. 2 days later, I got a call from Salvador. He drove by their house and saw they were literally having a yard sale, selling furniture and stuff. I guess they were desperate for cash. The next week was intense. I officially gained control of what was left of my trust fund. Still a substantial amount despite what they'd spent. I paid off my student loans the same day. That feeling when I logged into my account and saw $0 balance was freaking amazing. My sister showed up at my apartment unannounced. She was a mess, crying, makeup all smeared. Kevin had called off the engagement. She tried to blame me for ruining her life, saying I could have handled this privately without embarrassing her in front of Kevin. I reminded her that she was the one who brought him to the meeting. And I hadn't said anything that wasn't true. She slapped me across the face and I just closed the door on her. My neighbor Carlos heard the commotion and came out to check on me. When I explained what happened, he just shook his head and offered me a beer. Carlos is the real MVP. Meanwhile, the family house went up for sale. According to Salvador, who knows the real estate agent, they were asking way less than market value because they needed to sell quickly. Their credit cards were all maxed out and they had almost no income without access to my money. My stepdad apparently got asked to leave his job. Turns out when people found out he wasn't the financial wizard he pretended to be and that his lifestyle was funded by basically stealing from his stepson, his firm didn't want him representing them anymore. My mom had to cancel her country club membership and all her charity board positions. My brother tried a different approach. He showed up at my work one day acting all buddy-buddy in front of my co-workers, calling me bro and pretending we were close. As soon as we stepped outside, he tried to intimidate me, getting in my face about how I was destroying the family. My manager saw this through the window and came out to back me up. He told my brother to leave or he'd call security. My brother left but sent me threatening texts all night until I blocked his number. The most surprising thing was when I got a message from my stepdad a few days later. He wanted to meet one-on-one. No lawyers. Against Vanessa's advice, I agreed to see him at a public coffee shop. He looked like shit, unshaven, bags under his eyes, wearing clothes that weren't freshly pressed for probably the first time in his life. He didn't waste time with fake apologies. Instead, he offered me a deal. He'd give me dirt on my mom if I'd agree to let them keep some of the assets. Turns out my mom had been planning to divorce him for years, but was waiting until they drained more money from my trust. She had a secret bank account he just discovered where she'd been stashing cash. He showed me statements on his phone proving it. I just laughed and told him they deserved each other. I wasn't interested in their drama or making deals with either of them. He called me a bunch of names and left. A week later, they had to move out of the house. Salvador drove by and saw them loading a U-Haul. They were moving to a small apartment in a much less fancy part of town. My sister moved in with a friend. My brother was couch surfing, according to his ex-girlfriend, who still texts me occasionally. I kept my job at Target for another month, but I was working on something on the side. My dad's original business had been in logistics consulting. I'd studied business in college, but never had the capital to start anything. Now I did. I rented a small office space and started my own consulting firm focusing on helping small businesses optimize their operations. My first client was actually Carlos's brother who owns a food truck business. Within 2 months, I had 5 clients and was making enough to quit Target, though I still drop by sometimes to say hi to my work friends. Last week, my mom tried one more approach. She showed up at my new office with a small box. Inside were a few things of mine they hadn't burned after all, some photos of me and my dad, a trophy I won in high school, and my original birth certificate. She said she'd kept these things hidden from my stepdad. Then she asked if I could help her with rent money since they were struggling. I took the box, thanked her for the items, and told her I wasn't giving her money. She got angry, saying I was being cruel and vindictive. I told her I learned from the best. The thing is, I'm not even mad anymore. I'm just done. They showed me who they really are, and I believe them. They only valued me for what they could take from me. When they thought I had nothing worth taking, they told people I was dead rather than be associated with someone unsuccessful. Well, now I'm successful by anyone's definition, and they're the ones struggling. Salvador calls it poetic justice. I call it consequences. I'm thinking about using some of the money to set up a scholarship fund in my dad's name for students who need financial help. The kind of help I needed when I was in college, but my family denied me. The best part? I sleep better now than I have in years. No more trying to please people who were never going to be satisfied. No more feeling like I wasn't good enough. I know now that I was always good enough. They were the ones who failed as parents, as siblings, as decent human beings.